The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. Golenbock University. I'm Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Robert Cole is back with us again. He was kind of shortchanged last week. We had a terrific show with Skip Lockwood and his wife, Kathy. And I wanted to talk with Peter and Robert about the wonderful year that both the A's and Rays had, and go through it. I'd like Peter to start with his impressions of what happened.
Well, what happened? What happened was in the first month of the season, the Rays executives decided to jettison every decent player we had. I'm sure Robert felt exactly the same way as we sat and watched all of our players get traded away.
Oh, yeah.
At which point we were figuring this team's going to lose 100 games, and once they've announced that they're going to go to Tampa, who in the world is going to come and watch this bunch of clowns? Well, it turned out that the executives of the Rays knew a hell of a lot more than we did, because they traded for some of the finest young kids that we have seen in a long, long time. I mean, they ended up putting a fairly amazing team out on the floor. These are players that nobody from outside of Tampa Bay has ever heard of. A fellow named Bowers at first base. They had a fellow named Robertson and Wendell at second base. They had Adamus at shortstop. These are all rookie kids, And the one non-rookie they had was Matt Duffy, who came from San Francisco, to the chagrin of all of the San Franciscoers, and he was.
I knew you'd love this guy, Peter.
Oh, he's just the very, very best. And we got a couple of catchers. One of them named Perez. I don't know where the hell he came from, but he turned out Arizona. I mean, it was just marvelous. And another young catcher by the name of Chufo. I have no idea where he came from, but he turned out to be fabulous. And then we've got a handful of outfielders. We've got the Kevin Kiermaier in center, who's fabulous when he's not injured, which is about half the time. And we've got Malox Smith, number 0, who plays center fielder when Kiermaier's hurt. And Malox is not nearly as good an outfielder as Kevin is, but the guy can steal bases. He stole, I think, 39 or 40 bases. He hit close to 300. He's as fine a leadoff hitter as you want. It was just something. And then they got a guy by the name of Tommy Pham from St. Louis. And Tommy hit about 350 the last 5 weeks of the season. Now, why St. Louis would give up a guy like that, it was just beyond my understanding, except that I was told that he was kept in the minors for 4 or 5 years and was really angry with the St. Louis Cardinals organization. And so they traded him. They traded him away to the Rays. So he's playing. And then we have a kid by the name of Choi. His name is G-Man, J-I-M-A-N. We call him Bach, B-O-K, Bach Choi, G-Man Choi. I don't know where he comes from. I don't know anything about the guy, but he came to the Rays, and all he did was hit, and he was fantastic. He was absolutely fantastic. And I'm forgetting our right fielder. Refresh my memory. Who's our fabulous right fielder right now?
Well, it all depends on who's out there.
Go ahead.
Brandon Lau played some of the outfield.
Brandon Lau is another guy. Who the hell is Brandon Lau? But anyhow, he turned out he can play center field, he can play second base, he can play third base, he can play shortstop, and he was fabulous. But that's That's not who I'm...
You're probably thinking about Austin Meadows?
That's it. Austin Meadows. Okay, he's the last piece of the puzzle. He was the last guy to come up. And this guy has got a swing that leaves me breathless. He's got the fastest friggin' hands, and he's got such incredible, incredible power. Now, I've named, 12, 13 people, and 2 of them are not rookies. 2 of them. 12 of them are rookies. 2 of them are not rookies. They're rookies. And these guys, along with a solid group of rookie pitchers, most of whom are relief pitchers, took the Tampa Bay Rays, who I was sure was going to lose 100 games, to a season in which they won 90.
Well,
if they had
now,
played
is anybody in scouting and player development with the Rays getting credit for this? Is there some master?
They are the most secretive bunch of people. About 10 years ago, when Joe Madden came and did so very well in, I think it was the 2008 season, Madden and I signed a contract to write a book about what he was doing. And the Rays put the kibosh on it. They squashed it. They didn't want anybody knowing what they were doing. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing with their group of a dozen guys who are in the basement somewhere of Tropicana Field, sitting there with their computers figuring out their numbers. I mean, these people are all, Harvard, MIT guys who are making far less money than they ought to be making. But they are the geniuses behind Chaim Bloom and the other people who are making these trades and who are also deciding how to, a couple of things, how to play the people in the field so that they're standing in position so that when the batters hit the ball, they hit the batters right at the fielders, which they do time and time again, which is amazing. And that the other thing that these people figured out, and it's the thing that's going to make them famous, is that the sabermetrics is such that they didn't want their starting pitchers anymore to face a batter 3 times in the day. So here's what they came up with. They decided they would take one of their rookie kids who hit 98 miles an hour and pitch him anywhere from 3 to 6 batters. And then they would bring the starter in and pitch him. And he would pitch from, say, the 3rd inning to the 7th inning. Then they would bring in their fireballing 97-mile-an-hour guy for the 8th inning. And for reasons that none of us understand, they would bring in Sergio Romo to pitch the 9th, and we'd win the game. And sure enough, Romo blew 10 games. Still, the Rays won 90 games. It was amazing.
Is this their first 90-win season?
No.
Okay.
No, but it's certainly the most surprising 90-win season. The Rays, though nobody knows anything about them because they play in St. Petersburg, I think of all the teams, something like in the last 5 years, even though they've not made it to the playoffs, they've won something like, the number 6 winning team of all the teams, something like that.
Yes.
They've won a lot of games, but just not enough.
Peter, I'm in shock by the statement that they put a kibosh on a book that could do nothing but bring publicity to the team. A Golenbock book, Dynasty, Bums, The Woman of Boston, St. Louis. It's an honor for a franchise to be covered, and they're absolutely missing the boat. There is no historical reference about their franchise. You would have not only talked about the current team, you'd have gone back in history. You would hear from the start. Who is the schmuck that made the decision could have worked with you not to give away any secrets? It's not like it's government secrets. Who makes a decision like that?
At the time, it was Andrew Friedman, and Silverman, the two big shots on the team. The two of them, and I spoke to them both. I made the same arguments to them that you're making to me, and they didn't care. At the time, they were the leading sabermetrics in baseball, even more so, I think, than the Moneyball guys in Oakland. They were making these decisions, and they didn't want anybody to know what they were doing. Not that I really gave a damn. I mean, I was going to do.
You wouldn't have based your book. You would have based your book on personality, not on numbers.
I was going to do this book. I was going to do this book on Joe Madden, and we had a contract. We had a contract to do it, and they said no. But what are you going to do? That's their team, their manager, and they said no.
Have you ever tried to reestablish with Joe?
A couple of times. I have. I haven't pushed it very hard. He doesn't seem inclined to want to do it right now.
Yeah, he's under some pressure in Chicago, I was reading.
A lot of
pressure. It's the same nonsense that you're under pressure in Boston and under pressure in New York and under pressure in Philadelphia. It's the same sort of nonsensical pressure. Yeah, they didn't make it. They didn't make it past the wild card game, and so all the Cubs fans are blaming him, which is typical.
Well, actually, the word is, too, though, that Theo Epstein and Madden are knocking heads over a number of different things.
It could be. I mean, Madden was not necessarily Theo Epstein's guy, if I remember. I think Theo Epstein came over after Madden came over. So it would not surprise me.
No, Theo was there first.
Theo was there first. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then Theo hired him. Do you have any idea what's between them? I don't.
What I'm hearing is, Joe is his own guy. Joe likes to do certain things, and I guess he's going against, some of the things that Theo Epstein is trying to preach, such as, with relief pitchers, with making some of the changes that Joe does, moving guys in and out, different positions and things like that. But that's the word out of Cubland, is that there's some animosity between the two of them.
Huh. Well, that would be too bad.
Yeah. In fact,
Socha parted ways with the Angels. Do you guys think he'll ever manage again, or is it become a much younger?
No, I think he's done. I think
him and Bucky both are burnt out.
Yeah, I think so too. Buck Showalter was a marvelous manager. They're both marvelous managers, and they've been in this game 25, 30 years, and it's become a young man's game. I mean, I've noticed this over the years, especially with the managers and with the players. If you're a ball player who's over 30 years old, you're in the twilight of your career, because it used to be that you could play the game until you were 40. But now, and it's amazing. I haven't watched much National League ball this year, but I had a chance to watch Milwaukee against Colorado. Every single one of those relievers who came in was throwing 96, 97, 98 miles an hour. The same way it is with the Rays, the same way it is with Oakland, the same way it is with the Yankees, the same way it is with Boston. It's just, you better be 25 years old to play this game, otherwise you're over the hill.
And as far as managers go now, they don't want to pay managers. They don't want to pay guys like Showalter. They don't want to pay guys like Socha. That's why Joe Girardi's not managing right now. They can get a guy for $1 million instead of paying $7 or $8 million. And basically, the guys in the front office are telling the manager pretty much what moves to make.
That's right. That's where Cash has become so successful. And he's such a lovely, lovely person. But he bought in with the notion that if you come and manage the Rays, we're going to tell you pretty much what to do.
Yep.
And fortunately for Kevin, the guys telling him what to do are telling him the right things to do. And they're winning.
Yeah, well, they've also gave him a lot of good young talent, as you just mentioned.
Gosh, yes.
And, So it's it's amazing. Just going away from the Rays and the A's for a second. I look at the New York Mets.
Uh-huh.
They need to hire a general manager. Okay.
Right.
The Wilpons don't want to bring a sabermetrics person in. Fred Wilpon is absolutely vehemently opposed to bringing a sabermetrics guy in. And you've had, 4 or 5 people turn it down in the last couple of days just because of that reason.
Wow.
I didn't realize that. I thought it was because the Mets' propensity to not spend money.
It was said by an insider that if Fred Wilpon had to sit with a sabermetrics general manager, he would wind up blowing his brains out.
Isn't that something? That's so
no?
interesting. But you can
would he
still
do that
win
for a year just to see, so the fans could get some entertainment out of the Mets, one way or the other? That was no. I hate to see that. But isn't his son? I read where his son was on the opposite spectrum in terms of.
Well, his son is an idiot. Number one, I don't think his son could change a light bulb without somebody assisting him. And they say Fred has final say. Fred's not going to sit in on any of the early rounds of the GM interviews. He is going to sit in on the finalists. So, obviously he's going to have probably final say on it.
Is there a time frame to make a decision in their heads?
Well, they had several different people. The Ben Sherrington was supposed to be one of the people. He turned it down. Another guy from the Cardinals, Theo, I forget his last name, he turned it down. 2 other people turned it down, and turned down even interviewing. They didn't even want to sit down and interview.
Wow.
So now one of the leading
game is going to sabermetrics, and there's no turning back.
Right.
I hate to root for a team behind the times, but it's the way it is.
Well, it doesn't mean just because you don't pay attention to sabermetrics that you can't win. That is not true. If you have enough talented players, despite you're not starting a reliever for the first couple of innings or not paying attention to where the statistics say you should play people, you still can win ball games if your players are talented. You just can. You just better have talented people to do it. They've got DeGroot, and they've got some of these other guys who can really, really pitch. Their team is too old. They know it's too old.
Yep.
They've got to get rid of all the guys who are over 30, and they've got to replace them with kids. Might take 2 or 3 years, but you can still win without sabermetrics. You just need talented players to do it.
Well, easier said than done, because a lot of these contracts are locked in. A lot of the players that need dealing are DH types and can only play in the American League, given their age. And
try having to pay Chris Davis another $80 million for the next 4 years. How about that, sports fans?
Yeah,
right.
To hit 180. I mean, I could hit 180.
It's just astounding to me. I don't know what has happened to this guy. He was one of the star players of the league, and he signed his contract for $100 million for 5 years or 7 years or something like that. He's got 4 years left on his contract for $20 million a year, and the guy can't hit.
Oh, he looks lost. I mean, you watch him.
Yes.
You watch him. I mean, he absolutely looks lost.
I just don't know what the Orioles are going to do. And I mean that in a larger sense as well as a smaller sense. I mean, they got rid of Machado. They got rid of their fabulous closer, who's now with the Yankees.
Yeah.
It's just wow. I don't know what that team is going to do. I just don't.
Yeah. Machado looks good as a Dodger for some reason. He's playing well. He seems happy. I know they have their regular shortstop coming back. I wonder what.
Machado's a third baseman. He should be playing third base. He should be in the American League. The guy's an all-star. He really is. The Dodgers are very fortunate to have him. The Dodgers are still in the hunt for the championship this year, and I'm sure Machado will play a role in that.
Yeah. I'll tell you, speaking of the Dodgers, a guy who seems to be coming into his own is Pujols. I'm sure I'm not even pronouncing that right, but the kid from Cuba is rounding. It took him a while.
They have a couple of players, guys.
Oh, you mean Puig?
Puig, yes.
Puig.
Well, Puig certainly, but there's a new guy. Is it Story?
Where am I from? My head's
Story? They've got some marvelous hitters on that Dodger team. Really powerful, terrific hitters. That is one very fine ball club.
And like with all teams, there are surprises. They came up with Max Muncy, who is
that's the guy. Holy smokes, is he a good ball player? Wow. This is a team that's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. Same thing with Justin Turner. He was just somebody on the Mets. They pick him up. He becomes a superstar. This guy Muncy was in the minors, bouncing around. All of a sudden, he becomes a superstar.
Yeah. It would not surprise me to see the Dodgers in the World Series this year. That is one very good ball club. They are tough.
I think getting by Milwaukee is going to be an issue.
It will. Of course it will. Milwaukee's a very interesting ball team, too. I know it. They picked up the best of the best out of Miami to be the most valuable player of the National League. And
Christian Yelich.
Yelich is just tremendous.
Yep.
Tremendous for Milwaukee. Yeah.
He almost won.
Does you have a firm opinion on the Yankees-Red Sox series?
Well, there's 3 games left to go. The Yankees seem to get stronger, and the Red Sox starting pitching is fairly questionable because Sale has been on sort of tenterhooks the last 2-3 weeks. He cost me $2,000 in rotisserie baseball by not winning
really?
2 more games. Son of a gun.
I didn't know yours was for money type rotisserie.
Yeah, it is. All I needed was for Sale to win 2 more games. I would have finished 3rd, but it didn't happen, so I just finished 5th instead, which cost me some good money. But at any rate, Sale still has it in him. It's just a question of how many innings can he pitch. And Porcello, he's another fine pitcher. Eovaldi I think he's as good as any of them. And for some reason, David Price can't pitch in Boston in the big games. I don't know what in the world is with him.
He couldn't pitch for the Rays in the big games, Peter, if you remember.
I remember. Though he did win, I think, did he win the one game in the 2008 World Series, or was it
No, it was not him. It was
the other guy was traded away.
Matt Garza.
Oh, that's right. It was Garza. You're exactly right. But at any rate,
the only time Price did anything in the playoffs was when they used him as a relief pitcher against the Red Sox that year.
Okay.
He actually got the save in the clinching game in Game 7.
He did. So my guess is that probably he's not going to pitch in any of these games against the Yankees. But certainly,
and he can't pitch against the Yankees either. It's not just in Boston.
Yeah.
Okay, going all the way back to the Rays. I mean, the Yankees just ate him for lunch.
Yeah,
Pedro said the Yankees was my daddy. Well, the Yankees is his daddy.
Because he's a marvelous pitcher. Otherwise, that's the funny thing. He's got a lot of wins. He's tough. Porcello's tough. Eovaldi's tough. Sale, it's just a matter of whether he can pitch 6 or 7 innings. So the Red Sox have as good a chance to beat the Yankees as not. And, of course, the Yankees, they just seem to be getting better because Judge is getting better, because their catcher is getting better.
He hit a dramatic home run.
Holy smokes. And they came up with a guy from the junk pile, this guy Voigt. I don't know who the hell this guy is. He's hit
came from the Cardinals.
from the Cardinals. The Cardinals gave up 3 players this past year. 3 of them. They gave up Pham to us.
Right.
They gave up
McCarty.
a player. Yep.
To the A's.
Piscotty, right. Piscotty was the second one, and they gave up this guy.
Yeah.
So, wow. I hope the Cardinals got good people in return. But it's amazing the amount of outfield talent that they gave up. It's just something else to see.
Yeah. This guy Voigt, you may never see Greg Bird again.
May never. I don't think you will. And Voigt's a sweet kid. Really, really nice kid, and he just gets up there and hits home runs. So the Yankees right now, they got McCutchen in the deal of the century. That was really something. McCutchen is now the leadoff, so he's doing the leadoff thing now, which is to say spraying hits and getting on and walking, and a fine outfielder, and he's doing very, very well.
Great guy in the clubhouse, too.
Great guy in the clubhouse. It's interesting that they're batting Judge second, which I find so interesting. And then all the people behind him, Didi Gregorius and their Rookie of the Year third baseman, and my guy Gleyber Torres, the second baseman. I mean, this is a hell of a lineup, which makes the Yankees-Red Sox series, don't miss TV. It's really quite very, very exciting to watch. It's wonderful.
Okay. Hey, we have baseball for another couple of weeks, and as long as we have baseball of some kind, it's great. Thank you, guys. Great show.
Thank you.
I love doing it. And
have a wonderful week. We'll see what happens. It's going to be exciting.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank
Take
you
care,
for
everybody.
listening, everybody. It's Golenbock University, Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Peter Golenbock is the host and the star, and I'm Ralph Tyko. We had Robert Cole as a returning guest. Love it, Robert. Love it, Peter. Adios, everybody. See you next week.
Good night.
We are back. Bronx Roots, David Hubler, Michael Preminger. I'm Ralph Tyko, Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and I want to make something clear right before the start of this. I've got more Bronx Roots than I've been putting on. I realized that when I told you guys that my grandparents lived up in the Bronx on Valentine's Avenue, that you assumed that it was just go to your grandpa, go to your grandma once in a while. I would live there for months on end while my parents, my father was a diamond dealer, and he'd go to Europe to buy diamonds. And he'd take my mom with him and leave me as a young boy with my grandparents, and it gave them a chance to have a second go at parenthood, as it were, and it gave me a chance to be spoiled rotten. So
yes,
on Valentine Avenue that it all took place, and I loved it. I loved the Bronx. I loved the parks, and that's, as a matter of fact, David, when we first met, we talked about Harris Field.
Yes.
Yes. And Michael, I don't know if you remember Harris Field.
He was a good friend of mine, as a matter of fact.
He was in the garment business.
Yes, of course I remember Harris Field. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, my grandfather would walk me over there on his morning jaunt, and I loved watching guys. It was always full of ball players. That's what I remember. Games going on all the time, and it brings a tear on the Sunday morning.
Yeah, they had a game in each corner. It was a huge rectangle. So the games went on simultaneously. Baseball diamonds in each corner, And I don't remember there ever being, a case of where the outfielders sort of ran into each other from one field to the other, because it was so big. It was such a large field.
What struck me as a kid, there were times with the change of season, which the East is very famous for.
Yeah.
There were football games and baseball games going on simultaneously at that field. I don't know if they were full games, scrimmages, practices, what have you, but it was just athletics. And as a kid, probably because it was a lot of moving around, it just fascinated me, and it laid the groundwork for a lifetime of playing ball, following ball, thinking ball.
See, that's great. I love the idea of two sports at the same time, because I get a little of that sometimes across the street from where I live. That's where my son and daughter played, and grandson played baseball and soccer, and so there'd be like right now there's baseball and soccer going on at the same time, and in the gym there's basketball, and then I'll see some guys playing some kind of game with frisbee. I've even seen lacrosse practices, but most of the time it's baseball and soccer at the same time. And
these frisbee, I watched frisbee. I went to Golden Gate Park with Tally yesterday. We just had to get away from all the politics. We got
I don't blame you,
San Francisco from Alameda. It took us 20 minutes, literally is all. And another bus, we were at Golden Gate Park in another half hour. And there are skilled frisbee players on teams that these guys have ability, guys and women too, mixed leagues, have the ability to put that frisbee 60 yards down the field and have some guy run under it. It's
fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And soccer too. When I was a kid, there was very little soccer.
Oh yeah, we never even heard of that, really.
No.
Played it at camp quite a bit. I remember at summer camp, but in the city, to get green, it was easier in the Bronx to find greenery. Queens, not so much so. Where we lived in Jackson Heights, had to go a long way sometimes to find a green park to play tackle football in or whatever. Lot of sidewalks. A lot of New York City is just basically sidewalks with Central Park thrown in.
Well, the Bronx is known as a borough of parks. I mean, there was, as you mentioned earlier, Ralph, there was a lot of parks, a lot of park greenland to play games in. In fact, we had in front of our high school, in front of Clinton, there was a short, not short, but it was a narrow field with some pine trees on it, which we called Pine Island. And that was our football field because it was long and wide enough to play football on, and nobody else could play there at the same time. It was just enough field for playing football. And just beyond it, there was a long field of green that stretched almost from that particular field to where the Marshall Parkway subway station was, and the tunnel that led to the Grand Concourse under it. And I remember many, many days my friend and I would go down there and hit fungos to one another, chasing each other, hitting fungos that we'd have to go out, run past to catch, or try to catch over our shoulder, things like that. There were so many places to do that, but soccer was never a game. In fact, in Van Cortlandt Park, I remember distinctly they had a Irish curling league going on Sundays, and there were handball tournaments going on there at the same time. and so many, and horseback riding stables were right there too.
Yeah.
Remember the stables, Mike? They were closer to you, I think.
Yes.
And right there, right across from the cemetery. From you could go, you could rent. Yeah,
that cemetery was huge, Woodlawn.
Yes, huge cemetery. For many years, I thought Babe Ruth was buried there, and every time I go by, I think, oh, Babe Ruth is in there, but he wasn't. He actually was buried.
Wasn't Grant buried in the Bronx?
No, he's in Grant's tomb. Appropriately enough, they buried him in Grant's tomb, which was
where was Grant's tomb? Was that in the Bronx?
No, it's in Manhattan on the upper west side. Yeah, overlooking the West Side Highway. It's a cylindrical thing.
That was one of the first jokes when we were kids growing. Where was Grant buried? Grant's tomb.
Who's buried in Grant's tomb?
Yes, right.
That was a joke that Groucho Marx used to play occasionally on somebody who couldn't answer the simple questions.
Exactly, and they were yep.
For an extra $100, who was buried in Grant's tomb?
Right, exactly. Yeah, you got it right.
There was a park across a block from me. You reminded me of it, you guys. A Reservoir Oval.
Of course.
Oh,
of course.
And they did play football there.
Yeah. I remember those games. Those football games were probably the roughest, most they were organized in the sense it was a football game, but these guys were like trying to kill one another. You remember?
Yes.
They played on this field that was like filled with rocks and little rocks and dirt. It was in the center of a large oval where allegedly people ran track, but I learned how to ride a two-wheeler on that track because there was a place right on the,
yes.
Remember?
So.
Yeah. And there was a place right next door that actually rented bicycles by the hour, which you could take into the old...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Okay, maybe you guys can tell me, was it Van Cortlandt Park that had a big parking lot, handball walls, and tennis courts right together?
I think that...
am I thinking of Van Cortlandt or what other park?
Well,
I
think you are. I think you are. When you mentioned the handball courts, there was a section of Van Cortlandt Park, because as Mike said, it was a huge park, that bordered on Broadway up around 238th Street or something like that, just before it turned into Westchester County. And I remember there were a lot of handball courts there. Some very fine handball players would use those courts on a weekly basis. And I think there were some tennis courts there as well. Yeah.
And a big parking lot as well.
Maybe.
Right?
Maybe.
Okay.
That I can't vouch for because we'd walk over there. It was a good walk, but we'd walk all the way over there. Or if we were lucky, go ride a horse over there.
Great memories. How did you guys meet? I don't think I ever asked you that. When you were
on a blind date.
Yes, right. That's right.
Do you still have that corsage somewhere?
I think we both have.
It was a pressed flower. It was in the shape of a plankin, actually. It was very sweet. David brought me that, and
no, seriously, how'd you guys get together?
Well,
not to negate your nice gift, David.
Well, it was, yeah. I still have mine. It's in the middle of my volume of War and Peace. Does a good job of pressing flowers in the original Russian, by the way. So I think what happened was this junior high school we went to, and they don't even have junior high schools anymore. They now have 100,000 little satellite schools. But anyway, the junior high school that I went to was the place where several local elementary schools, which only went up to the 6th grade, then they would all go over to 80, that was the number of our school. And I think that's where we met, in the schoolyards over there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because that's what we did. I mean, we just lived in those schoolyards after school all the time. And so I remember Mike would come down from the back side of the schoolyard. He sort of that elevated wall. Remember? You had to come down the
stairs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And there was some handball courts right there.
That's right.
Yeah. And then in the middle, the school was shaped like a U, but a square U, with one open end, and inside the open end were the 2 basketball courts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've mentioned in the past that I distinctly remember we used to play like 3-on-3, and guys would stand around and wait till the one team lost. Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing. I mean, I didn't know him well, but it was Calvin Klein was waiting to play basketball. And he had some patterns with him while he was waiting that he was cutting out. But it was, because he grew up on the other side, on the Bainbridge Avenue side of 80. So, yeah.
Times were different then. Did he run into problems, or there was another fellow that was in fashion that you told me about?
Ralph Lipschitz. The other one was Ralph Lipschitz. Ralph Lauren, yeah.
Right. Did those guys run into problems? Was there a lot of that going on?
Well, one thing, they used to throw scarves at each other because they were jealous of each other.
Yes, they
and
were.
So people would let them alone until they got over their tantrum.
And then they would go around and criticize the way we dressed. The plaid clashes with your shorts. It was all throughout all school. They even criticized when we had to go to assembly and we had to wear a white shirt with a blue tie and dark slacks. And they said, no, that's passé. No, nobody wears that.
And one disapproving look.
Oh yeah. Yeah, especially the girls. They would criticize, the way they dressed, and they were the neighborhood fashion mavens. I mean, you couldn't get it was hard to get out of the house if you were clash colors. They would find you. Hid in the block, where the supers used to live. There was this alleyways. There was a
supers.
Yeah,
that's a word. Yes.
Uh-huh. Yes.
That's a throwback word. The supers.
By the way, I must point out, and I haven't heard it, but my wife is listening to it. Penny Marshall's what do you call them, books on tape, but it's on a CD about her book, and it's all about that era, at least as far as my wife has listened so far, and it all talks about the very same things we're talking about now. 80, the Fence, Grand Concourse, the Zoo, Schwellers, all of that. So I have to start to listen to this because it sounds really good.
Is that a new book?
Yeah, it must be. It must be, because I did read her other one, which, dabbled in that sort of thing.
Let's try to get her as a guest.
Oh, yeah, right. That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard she's been ill. I don't know how I heard that. I can't recall, but I do remember. But she was actually in my sister's grade class. She was about 2 years behind me. And in the elementary school. What's that?
It was 2 years?
Just about 2 years, yeah. And I didn't realize she actually was one of the Marjorie Marshall dancers when they did the Jackie Gleason show. Yeah. I knew one of the other girls who was in that troupe, but I didn't realize she was in it too. But yeah, it was an exciting time there. I mean, people don't realize, they talk about the post-war years as this, this wonderful idyllic time. And I think where we were, it really was. I can't complain about anything that really happened, except when I used to get thrown out of the movie theater by this big fat matron. That was the only problem I had. But I mean, boy, it's preposterous. I mean, who doesn't talk during a movie? You know, who doesn't throw popcorn at someone else? I mean, you know. And they threw me out for that. I got thrown out. I got thrown out of the Paradise very, very frequently. That was a step up. That was a step up from the David Marcus Theater on my block, on Rome Avenue.
For talking?
For talking, I don't remember what it was. But you see, we had free passes, so we didn't care.
Oh yeah, well, true.
Yeah.
Oh no, you got thrown out. Oh.
Yeah, but I always considered it sort of a badge of honor to get thrown out of the Paradise. That was a major movie theater, you know. It wasn't like the one around the corner. They just had a movie.
I have an off-the-wall question for both of you. You're both authors. You're both writers. Let's put it that way. What was the one book you read as a kid that inspired you to be an author, David? And what was the one play or movie that you saw that inspired you, Michael, to be a playwright? And start with you, Michael.
Well, the play that I always talk about is I was lucky to see Inherit the Wind with Paul Muni and Ed Begley. They weren't with me, they were on stage.
Right.
Good point. It had me confused for a while.
And supposedly I think I said to my mother, I want to do that. Well, I think I said I want to act, but it was also the play. It was just so brilliant. And my brother, by the way, said he wanted to be a lawyer, and he became a lawyer. So that had a lot of influence. Other than, I would say, Max Shulman, reading Max Shulman's books.
Oh, yes. Dobie Gillis, yeah.
Yeah,
and then
the whole premise that was so well done about Maynard's aversion to work, about meeting boy meeting girl, boy liking girl, all that stuff. He was a brilliant writer, Max Shulman.
Yes, yeah. He had a syndicated column in many college newspapers.
Yes.
Remember, sponsored by one of the cigarette. What's that?
Did he not start that way as a
writer? I don't know whether he started, but I know by the time he was doing it, his name was well known. So I'm not sure, but I know when I was with the NYU paper, we ran his column once a week, and it was always very, very well done and very funny.
David, did you do sports as well? I know Hal Bach did sports for that paper at the same time, but were you?
Well, Hal was about 2 years ahead of me, and Hal was sports editor, and then there was a sports editor after him, and then I followed as sports editor. So I was a sports editor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was a sports editor about 2 years after he was, and then I became co-editor-in-chief in my senior year.
Of NYU.
Yeah, of NYU, right, yeah. And it was a very interesting year, briefly, because all the New York City newspapers went out on strike about that November, October, somewhere around there. They all went on strike, a printers union strike. And we began printing the paper. We upped the press run quite a bit, and we were distributing it free in the village, in Greenwich Village. So we had the only newspaper in town for a while.
Wow.
Yeah, it was quite exciting to do that because we were given permission to run a couple of the normal columns that ran in the World Telegram and Sun and some of the other papers at the time, the Post. So we did that until the Post broke the strike by getting the printers union back on the job, and then of course there was no need for us to continue to do that. But Hal was about 2 years ahead of me.
Who's Hal?
And what?
Hal Bach, he's on our Tuesday evening show about from the old Madison Garden. He went, and he was an old NYU guy too.
May I ask you a question to David? Did you want to, obviously, if there you were editor of NYU paper in New York, did you try to get a job on any of the New York papers with your credentials?
You know, I didn't, but that's a good question, and I now I think about it, I wonder why I didn't, because a number of other journalists on the paper before me, and like Hal went to AP and spent his whole career as an AP sports writer and columnist. But I did work that whole year also as in the sports publicity office as a part-time job. They actually paid me a stipend to do that. I worked in the sports publicity office, but I don't know. I as much as I love sports, especially baseball, and I loved college football at the time, it never really dawned on me to become a sports writer. But I was interested in journalism, and one of the things I did when I was one of the things I did in my senior year was the Society for Professional Journalism was called SDX at the time. I joined the Los Angeles chapter on the assumption that I was going to go out to L.A. And then find a job on a newspaper out there. I didn't get out there, and then years later, when I was looking for work in the field, I was in Phoenix, and I did a couple of interviews out there, one with the Arizona Republic, and a couple of other things, and there was no hiring at the time. They were one of their depressed eras out there in Arizona. So, and then I thought, well, maybe, having worked at Voice of America all those years, the thing that I wanted to separate some of my government career from private journalism, and then nothing. It just didn't happen. That's all. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. The three of us grew up in New York. Really loved growing up in the city, and we all left at one time. Did you guys have the feeling when you were growing up that you were gonna eventually? A lot of people because of the climate talked about going to Florida. When I was a kid, the Air Force took me to California, but I wonder if I would have left New York anyway. And were those feelings strong when you were kids that, wow, I'm gonna move on once I grow up?
Not in my case, no, not at all.
Okay.
No, I don't. I mean, other than joining the LA chapter, they marked me down for being absent on a couple of meetings. But anyway,
every now and again.
Every now and then, yeah. But no, it's interesting too. That's a good question you raised, Ralph, because so many people go to New York for a career. And think of that's the place I'm going to make it. Make it there, I can make it anywhere, kind of thing.
Right.
I don't know. I know that I wanted to go on to graduate school, and that's when I went up to New Hampshire. And from then on, I really did not move back to the city at all. Once I got my degree and I was teaching in Connecticut, I didn't move back to the city.
Okay. Michael, when you moved to L.A., was there a time when you went back to live in New York? Or
I had an apartment on West 70th, a block from Central Park, half a block from Central Park, and so I had come out here. I did the Tonight Show a few times, and then would go back, and so Manhattan was still my home, even though I had come out here, and then I came out 1 year and spent a number of months out here, but I never gave up I didn't give up my apartment even when I came out in 75, I kept the apartment for like 3 years or so, and then realized, well, this is silly. I'm hardly ever back there.
Was it a rent-controlled apartment?
I was just going to ask.
Yeah, I was paying hardly
give up
anything.
on that.
Yeah, like $200.
Yeah. I have a friend who for years kept a second apartment because it was the first apartment that he had, and it was just too good to give up for the cheap rent he was paying. So even though he continued to live in Manhattan, he continued to have this apartment for a good number of years.
Yeah, I did for a while. And then I realized I wasn't going back and forth.
Yeah.
And it just seemed kind of silly. And it was also story. It was this girl that I had. This is off a tangent, so to speak. Girl that I had been dating, and she married somebody else. I ran into her one day, and she said, "Are you still living in the apartment?" I said, "Yeah." And she said, "I want to redecorate it." Now, she was married. It's a strange story, and she comes up, she brings like 2 or 3 guys, and they wallpapered my little kitchen, but she brought me furniture. It was very bizarre. And not to drop names, but Leno had met her, and I remember saying to Jay, I said at one point, she said, "Well, I have to put on my work clothes," and she took off her blouse and was wearing no bra and put on another shirt, and even Jay said, "You're kind of stupid. I think she still likes you. Coming on to you. She's redoing your entire apartment." And I only tell that story because I was there maybe finally my apartment looked nice after 8 years. And after 4 months later, I came out to L.A. I never lived back there again, and it was kind of strange story. It was too bad.
Did you sublet your apartment? Not you guys, Michael.
I did.
Sublet?
I did. Yeah.
You know, I was just back in New York briefly. It's been a long time since I was there, and I remember watching the 9/11 horrors on TV down here when I was working, and we were all glued to the TV, of course. So finally, we had one day set aside where we were going to go down and see Ground Zero and the museum. And I had trepidations about it because I don't like to see tragic kinds of things. Who does? But anyway, we went down there, and I had the same, as I said, trepidation that I felt the first time I went to the U.S. Holocaust Museum here in Washington. And I must give credit to these museum curators who put these things together, because in both cases, it was far less traumatic than I had expected for someone who had a link to both museums. Not that I know of anyone I lost in the Holocaust, but obviously being Jewish, I had a feeling about it. The same thing was true with the Ground Zero. That I know of one friend whose son nearly was in the building that morning. But aside from that, it was New York, and it was my hometown, and it was being attacked, and so I had a very strong feeling about watching that on TV. And in both cases, the museums were less horrific, I should put it, I guess, than I had expected. Very informative, but especially with the Ground Zero. The Ground Zero area itself is two giant squares of water cascading down on the edges, which are the footprints of the two towers. But the beauty of the whole thing is that it's turned that area down on the lower west side there, around West Street, and which always was a terrible place to go. There was nothing there except warehouses, and at one point the New York Post had its offices down there on West Street, and when I worked there one summer. It was just a dirty, grimy place to be, and now it's full of nice new glass and steel buildings and restaurants, and the view of the river is tremendous, and so is the west side, what do they call it, the High Line.
The walkway.
The walkway.
Last time, and that's one of the things next time I get to New York, that's what I want to.
And the huge Jacob Javits Center there on the west side, which they're also enlarging, is quite a building too. So all of that is changing, and it's changing pretty much for the better. We were having lunch in a French restaurant down there, about a couple of blocks from Ground Zero, and looking out at the Hudson River. And there were yachts tied up. I mean, it was really quite something. It wasn't, some of the old wharfs are there, and some of the old piers where the old United States and the Queen Mary used to dock, and they're still there, a little further north. But in the south, they've dedicated it, I guess, to rich people's yachts and stuff. Because it's a.
Did you see my boat? Did you see it down there?
I didn't see it. No.
I wish you had told me you were going to be there.
Would you have given me the key and I could have driven it around a bit?
Yeah, of course.
Had I but known. Next time, I'll make sure.
I could see you with a little sailor cap right now.
I have it. I have one, actually. I have a captain's cap. I'm ready for all occasions. I even had, I've lost it now, but I had a Lionel engineer's cap, the little striped blue and white one.
You had Lionel trains. I did too. It was with a little transformer, they called it. I think that.
Yeah.
Did we have Lincoln logs?
Oh yes.
That's what I thought.
We had Lincoln, which they're still making them, by the way.
My grandson is just building something with it.
Right.
They're great.
I know. I like them better than what's the stuff they use now?
Legos?
Legos, yeah.
Oh, God.
Because Lincoln logs.
You step on your kid's Lego in the middle of the night when you get out of bed?
No.
That was a memory of parenthood that embedded in me.
What we liked was I liked the erector sets. Remember, they were metal pieces of like beams and real screws and nuts, and you could build all sorts of things. And they had
like strings that would come down, so you could hoist stuff and what have you.
Well, yeah, you had to put. But if you got the sets ranged in size and complexity, and at one point they started to include an electric motor, which you could build things like I remember my father and I built this drawbridge contraption. And then the drawbridge would go up and down because it had the electric motor. And
that's what I was thinking about, the thing that went hoisted up and down.
Yeah, they had all, but no, there were pulleys and wedges, and there were all these metal pieces. I mean, they were really nice. They would last forever if you. But
that's when I learned that I had no ability with mechanical, or because I got an erector set, and I would start and I would yell one word, "Mom." She would come and she would build whatever it was. And I was terrible with that stuff.
Well, we all have different skills. Or you all have different skills.
By the way, Ralph, just to get back to your question, I spent many young summers reading the Hardy Boy books in terms of, and each year it seemed they put out a new volume, and they were $1 a pop, so I had no problem getting the money from my parents to buy a new book. And since it involved reading, of course, anything I could read, they loved it, exactly, yeah. So I read a new Hardy Boy book, and then there were a couple of other series that came out that I read as well. So, the Tarzan series was another favorite of mine. And that was a real adult book because it was like about 300 and something pages. The Hardy Boys were much slimmer. Yeah, you read 300 pages without any kind of illustrations or photos. You've read a book,
Yes, still today.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Are you kidding? I don't remember those books. I just remember. I think I talked about it when I was like in the 7th grade. I had pneumonia for a week or two, and I remember reading John Steinbeck and a book by Taylor Cardwell called Dynasty of Death. It was about the DuPont family, but it didn't use their names.
Oh.
Families that sold arms to different countries, and that's how they got their money. That's how they I
didn't know that. I recognized the name of the author, but I didn't know that book.
Yeah. So I read these wonderful books for a number of years, and then I don't know why I stopped, but I really remember. I think I mentioned East of Eden really left an impression on me.
Oh yeah, I've got the film with James Dean on.
James Dean, yeah.
And I have got it. I taped it when it was on like Turner Classic Movies or something, and
right.
I have yet to watch it. Raymond Massey is in that film as the father.
He plays James Dean's father.
Yeah, and also Abraham Lincoln.
At the same time.
Yeah, well, no, they do a split screen. Raymond Massey was so devoted to being Abraham Lincoln that he got into his contract that he had to appear as Lincoln in every film he ever made. So it's tough sometimes for the writers to write him in, And I think Steinbeck was not happy at all.
No, not at all.
All right, one more question for you guys today. What was an early critical acclaim that you got that made you, real early, that made you say, I could do this? And we'll start with you, David.
I have this very early memory. I don't know all the details. I can't recall all the details. I was not physically, sexually assaulted, but let me say that first. But what it was a student art show, and it was downtown in maybe like the 69th Regiment Armory or someplace. And some of the things I had done in art class or in the art time during the class, were on display, and I remember we went down there because the artist, quote unquote, was supposed to be down there with their works and being shown this in this citywide thing. And I don't even remember what was selected, frankly, but I was one of the students who was selected to show his artwork down there. And I remember going down with my parents, and I think we drove. I don't remember how we got there. It's a vague memory, but I remember, you get these sort of flashes of, and I saw that I can see the inside of this place, but I can't. All the details are fuzzy. But that was when I really began to kick my career, so to speak, as a student artist into gear. And in fact, a lot of people, not a lot, some people who knew me then had remarked, gee, I thought you were going to be an artist. How'd you wind up as a writer? So
you did
that was
cartoons, right? Am I wrong?
What's that?
I say multi-talented.
Did you do cartoons also?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did cartoons. I also did. We used to decorate the windows in the classroom, like for Christmas and Thanksgiving, with Bonami, the cleanser. Would be mixed with. You remember? Mixed with the powdered paint, and you get this paint mixture, and you paint the windows. And somewhere in the house, I've got a picture of me doing that, and painting a turkey on the window or something. I forget what it was. But I did decorate windows, which led some people to think that, I might wind up as a window washer in the career. But it didn't work out. I hate heights. I couldn't get up over the second floor. Yeah. So, but no, that was one of the, I did art, even in Clinton, when I tried out for the the student news, the Clinton News, and I didn't make the writing test. I failed the writing test. But
really?
I went, I worked as a cartoonist. But it's funny, many years later, in the 100th anniversary dinner dance of the Clinton alumni at New York Hilton, I ran into my old the student advisor, and I said to him, the Clinton News writing test was the only writing test I have ever failed throughout my professional career. And he said, well, it was a pretty hard test. But that's about when I switched over.
All right. Hey, Michael, in conclusion, your early acclaim.
Well, the early acclaim.
Yeah, that validated you, or that made you think.
Well, in the 7th grade, I had a teacher named Arnold Moss. He was an English teacher. And one time we had to get up and give a speech or write a speech and then present it. And I just remembered him he liked me, and I liked him a lot too. And whether he gave me a thumbs up or a wink or something, but he was very positive, and I said, boy, I like this. This felt good. And I would say that was the first time. And I still remember.
Were both of you, were your parents approving parents? Did you get a lot of encouragement from them?
I did. Well, when growing up, yeah.
Okay, good.
My parents were very approving and supportive of my art career. However, in the 8th and 9th grade, when I tried my hand at comedy in the classroom, that did not go over so well with my parents. They feared that I would not even get out of the 9th grade. I had a homeroom teacher and a math teacher, one and the same person, who was very, very nasty to me, and I was equally nasty to him, I'm sure, looking back. And we clashed a lot. and I usually try to get the last word in, a funny word, so to speak, and get the class laughing. And my mother was in school a lot that year, begging them to let me graduate, begging them. Because not only I coupled my comedic talent with my inability to do basic algebra. I couldn't do math at all. I was terrible. Even to this day, I hand the restaurant checks to my wife and say, "Well, I can't see the numbers. Why don't you just tell me what?" Which is now it's half true. Yes, but it's half true now. I'm having trouble seeing the numbers. The truth has caught up with me.
Yeah. That's how life goes sometimes.
Yeah.
Guys, terrific show. I enjoy so much your company.
Yeah, I do too. We do too. Yeah.
It was fun.
Okay.
Right. We'll do it again next week. And just want to tell everybody out there, if you're listening, would you do us, all three of us, a big solid? If you enjoy our offerings or any of the offerings on the station, box up some new or lightly used children's books and take them down to the Head Start program in whatever community you live in. It would be, even though I put an in at the end there, dangling a preposition and making David upset on some level. It would be a good idea if these kids could learn to read in a way that would enrich their lives, make them school ready, develop an imagination, get their noses out of the computers and devices, and enjoy life with books. The kids at the Head Start program that would benefit, ironically, are the kids in life that would benefit the most from this. It goes around, comes around, to quote our newly appointed Supreme Court Justice. So help out society, bring them some books, get a neighborhood program together, whatever it takes to enrich those children's lives.
Yeah, we can attest to that. We already spoke about that. Yep.
Reading is everything. It really is. And it'd be great if you do that and come back next week and hear us rant.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you again. This has been a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.